I'm Kyle Hills, and I did my presentation on who needs budgets. First, I'd like to talk about some of the difficulties of budgets. Some of the problems that have been noticed in recent years with budgeting is that it will give these perverse incentives for people to work for certain arbitrary numbers and not actually focus on what's important for the company. Examples of this are when salespeople pressure people into buying products that they know will eventually be returned so that they can hit their sales goal for a particular quarter or budgeting period, so that they can receive maybe a bonus or some other type of financial compensation, or just to look good because they reached this budget that had been set for them. Another thing that might happen is in times where they're doing very well, they will try to give people incentives to pay in the later quarter or budgeting period so that they can start that quarter off really strong to be able to make sure that they're continuously hitting these targets that have been set for them. And another problem with budgets is that it isn't a good tool for getting feedback. Because budgeting is so slow, it doesn't continuously look at what's going on so much as it waits to see when the period is ended. People will have to wait oftentimes until that period is over to know exactly what's going on for them at the job, and because of this their feedback is generally pretty slow and often doesn't pertain anymore to what's going on because of how fast businesses change. Some of the things that can be done to help people break away from the budgeting is realize that when you're not budgeting the way that is classically done today, companies are able to focus more on the long term. Instead of focusing 1 quarter in advance or a couple of months in advance, sometimes they can focus up to even 8 quarters so that they can get a better projection of what the future actually holds. That also allows for companies to focus on their fixed costs to get them lower, to help uptime, to make it so that all the capacity or all sorts of revenue generating sources are actually being used and they're being used to their full potential. Because of this, then companies are able to imply kind of the Kaizen principle where they're continuously getting better, whereas with budgeting they'll continue to increase the numbers slowly, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the company is getting better. So how budgets ended up having all these problems is that they continuously added all these more and more numbers that didn't exactly mean that what they were doing was tracking progress. So now creating a budget for a large company can take months at a time. Sometimes they'll barely be done creating the budget before it's time to start creating the next period's budget. And so this just wastes a lot of people's time when they're trying to create these things. It's a very slow and cumbersome process, and all it really does is make it so that people can look at these numbers that don't necessarily track the true progress of a company. And so as people continued to add, the budgets got bigger and the problems started to get bigger, and I feel like they got even less efficient because of this. A good example of a company that's not using budgets is Allsell. They're a company that decided to do away with classical budgets and started looking on what the market really needed. They were able to focus on centralizing their distribution and other things like this, and because they've done that, they were able to overcome their competitors in their field, and they saw that the decisions could be made in a timely manner because they were empowering their employees. This meant that employees had the power to be able to make and to correct their own mistakes, which freed up time for managers to do the same. In conclusion, budgets, they're going to continue to be a part of our businesses. It's a really old way of doing things that people feel comfortable with, and so though it might not be the most efficient and effective way to do things, it's something that most people know about, and so I feel like it's going to continue for at least the foreseeable future. But that doesn't mean that companies shouldn't be continuously looking for ways to improve and empowering their employees so that they can make decisions that allow them to become a better business as a whole.